Hey guys, what's up? Today I am wearing glasses, so you will perceive me as smarter than I am because I'm gonna be talking about a study today. So there has been a lot of talk about loot boxes again in the gaming news sites and new articles coming up about loot boxes being related to gambling and hey, maybe we should do something about loot boxes. But at the same time, I feel like that loot boxes can also be just like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to predatory mechanics and especially monetization mechanics that we see in games today. And I was browsing to Google Scholar, as I sometimes do because I like to read academical studies and especially about gaming and ludology, the study of games, because I really find this stuff interesting and I want to find out more about games as a medium of entertainment and as an industry. And when I was browsing it, I actually found a really interesting study and it was actually about what I wanted to talk about this week. It was about predatory mechanics and loot boxes and what kind of monetization strategies do games have and how do the players feel about it. This study was done by Elena Petrovskaya and David Mr. Zendel in the University of York in 2021. So it is a pretty recently done study. It was published in 2021. I'm not exactly sure when the actual study was made, but I would also assume it's pretty recent. And the study was looking at unfair, misleading, or aggressive monetization in video games from the perspective of the players, and they were focusing on stuff other than loot boxes, which I found really interesting. And they were using the UK Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations in 2008 as kind of like their framework in the study. They had 1,104 participants, and in total, they found 35 problematic monetization mechanics, and again excluding loot boxes in games, and then they divided these mechanics into 8 themes. And now I'm gonna go over these themes that they found and all of the mechanics they discuss in this study, and I'm just gonna speed through them and explain any of them I feel like need to be explained further. Many of them are pretty clear cut, but in case you want some of them explained further, I will link the study, the whole study, in the link down in the description below, so you can read it for yourself and find out more about the study. But yeah, let's begin with the first theme of the study that they found. And this first theme is the intentional design to drive spending. This include such mechanics as pay or grind, pay or wait, the nerf cycle, game builds dependency on microtransactions, unfair matchups, free game experience underpowered, and payment needed to avoid negative consequences. One of these, the nerf cycle, I feel like needs to be explained a bit more. And what this basically means is that the game offers you a product, an item, or a character maybe, and at the time of the release, when the item or the character is released, it feels like really overpowered. Like it feels like you can break the whole game with that item or character. It's like really overpowered. But then updates come and slowly this item is nerfed or made weaker. So that is kind of nerf cycle. You get an overpowered item, but as time goes on, it gets like weakened. The second theme is product not meeting expectations. This includes sale of users' products or duplicates. The product does not incorporate everything the player believes it does. Early access content turning out to be different. Having to buy something unwanted in order to get a desired object. Separate re-release of a product as free or easier to get. And then finally, the whole monetization strategy of the game changing in the middle of the game's life cycle. I think all of those are pretty clear cut, so I'm not gonna go further into those. The third monetization theme, which is monetization of basic quality of life features, and here includes such things as core aspects of the game being monetized, parts of the game locked behind a paywall, limited inventory space, and then finally game being unplayable without paying money. The fourth theme is advertising. Here it includes unrealistic presentation of products, so kind of misleading advertising, lack of information about the conditions of the transaction, aggressive advertising, and then my favorite, probably favorite of these monetization mechanics, just because it sounds cool, it's called dark patterns. Ooh, so it's very scary. But what this basically means is that the UI, the user interface of the game, is designed in such a way that it would be easier to manipulate the user into buying something. For example, having bigger buttons for the paid features than the free features, and just having those buttons look more attractive than the other buttons in the game, or something like that. Just the user interface being used to manipulate for purchases. Next theme they found is in-game currency, and one of these problems was just the general existence of in-game currency. Then using that in-game currency to disguise the actual prices of a product. For example, a product only costing 100 gems, but you don't, in your brain, you can't connect that how much the 100 gems is actually in real life. So that's a psychological trick that they're pulling on you. Then multiple currency types. So if you have coins, you have diamonds, you have gold or something in your game, that confuses the player. Again, psychological trick, and just makes the game much more confusing for some people. And finally, fixed purchase rates are unfair. What this means is, for example, let's go back to the gems idea. Let's say in the game that you are playing, there is an item that costs 100 gems, and you can only get these gems by purchasing them with real money in that game. But unfortunately, the game only allows you to buy sets of these gems. So let's say you can buy 75 gems, or then you will have to, the next option is 150 gems. But you only want the item that costs 100 gems, so you're kinda forced to pay more than what you wanted in order to get the item that you really want. That's what it means by fixed purchase rates. Got it? Good. The next theme that they found out was pay to win. So you will have to pay a bit more money in order to win in the game, whether it is competitive or just single player. So this includes such things as advantage over other players, subscription features, boosts, and pay to play competitive. I think those are all pretty clear cut and pretty self-explanatory, so let's move on. The next theme was the seventh theme, was the general existence of microtransactions. And this included such things as microtransactions as being the only business model and the main business model of the game. Players found that usually very kind of problematic. Payment mechanics in paid products. So if you already have a $60 game that you purchased and then it asks you for more, players didn't really like that. Then overpricing. Moving on to the last theme that they found, other. And this includes such things as teasers, limited time offers, subscribe now and you get 20% off of the next video or something like that. Battle passes, just like in Fortnite, and that was it. Those were all of the mechanics that were seen as unfair, misleading, or just aggressive. So what now? And further on in this video, this will be all my opinions and not about this study anymore that much. I want to make that clear for everyone. So, are these the worst thing in the history of anything ever? Not necessarily. Some of these things are kind of just basic for advertising and selling a product. Sometimes you kind of have to create problems for your game so the player wants to buy something. And also, we should consider the fact that mostly some of these issues appear in mobile games, and due to the mobile market kind of being as it is nowadays, most of the games there are free to download and play. So the monetization has to come from somewhere. And so it's understandable that something psychological maybe in those games to make you actually want to buy something in that game. We need to get money. Hey, the game developers still need to be fed. We are not robots just yet. And also, we should consider the fact that even in AAA games, like big budget PlayStation 5 exclusive, well, PlayStation doesn't do that much microtransactions. They do some DLC and such. Those games, like, still, the costs are getting higher and higher to develop these games. So maybe and like the game prices have not gone that much up, so it kind of makes sense that they might need some extra cash, extra revenue from somewhere, whether it is like DLC or some level of small payments in the game. That to me is in a way sort of kind of acceptable. It's not the worst thing in the history of anything ever, but there are of course problems with this, and that's what we are going to cover now. So what should be done about these predatory monetization mechanics in games? First of all, from the company perspective, we should build systems to prevent players from being financially harmed. Loot boxes and many like microtransaction stuff in games can be very addictive, and you can easily spend a lot more money on these than you expected. A lot of games do not tell you how much money you have actually spent on games, so that can be very, very bad for some people who are not so great making financial decisions, let's say that. And then you would realize that, hey, you have actually spent $300 dues on this game every month. So that not something I like seeing. If you have the money for it, sure, go for it. If you want to spend $300 dues on a game, sure, go ahead. You are free to do what you want with the money that you have. But sometimes when you just don't realize it, it can be surprisingly a lot, and that might get you in financial trouble, and we should not financially bankrupt anyone with our games. That seems kind of like a fair deal. They can pay if they want to, but don't like bankrupt them, please. Then be also open and transparent about what the digital products contain. This goes especially for like loot boxes. Please present what you can get from these, what are the odds, but otherwise if you're buying like a bundle of items, what is included, make sure the customer also understand what is not included. And then be mindful of who your audience is. It's mobile games, they are free to download by anyone, that includes kids, and you don't want to do psychological tricks on kids to get their money, because kids don't always realize what is going on. They are very young, they don't understand if they are being targeted, and they might not even realize that they are actually spending real money on something. So that is very problematic, and maybe we should do some level of authentication to download some games, or some level of regulation for games with like pushier and more aggressive monetization mechanics, but that is not up for me to design. That is just me sharing my opinion. And then for all of you guys watching it, you're probably not a big company, so I'm just gonna assume you are just individuals who love playing games. What can you do? I would encourage informative and nuanced discussion about these predatory monetization mechanics online and with people who might have the ability to actually do something. We did great. I think the gaming community did great when EA pushed the boundaries very much too far when, like, I think Battlefront 2, the Star Wars Battlefront 2 fiasco happened a few years ago, and we got the mainstream, like, public news sites and politicians to talk about the actual problems that loot boxes might have, and we might actually get some good regulation, and we have actually gotten some good regulation that is consumer friendly and healthy for the game industry going forward. So we can do this again. We can start a discussion again, and we can get people who might not be aware of these issues to maybe take a look at these. And as a closing statement, I want to say not everything here, again, not everything here is bad, but some of these mechanics can be easily abused, and especially when these games are played by children a lot, we might want to actually do something about this. But that is all I had to say about these topics. Remember, I want to start a discussion with my videos, so if you have your own thoughts and ideas what we should do, please, you're very free to just put your comments down in the description. I will try to answer each one of your comments, and I really want to start a discussion with you. And if you have just any like feedback on this video in general, what do you think about it, please put your comments down below. And also remember to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I am kind of new with this YouTube stuff, so I just love seeing new subscribers come to my channel and listening to what I have to say about the game industry. I post videos once a week, every Monday, depending on your time zone, of course. So I make videos about like game industry, certain game franchises, and do some speculation and even a bit of game design, neat, cool stuff. So let's have more discussions in the future. I'm really looking forward to it, and that's all I had to say. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.